All right, yo, what is good? It is January 25th. I'm having to make a recap just for YT only because I do have a night class tonight. And unfortunately, I will be getting back too late to do a recap in time for a good time for me to get to bed. But I do want to cover the setups that were taken today, as well as some really, really good examples. Today was overall, obviously, or I would say in the AM, we did chop around a little bit and then kind of started to get a clear direction after 9 a.m. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and get into it, and I'll kind of explain my thought process, kind of what I thought about some certain things. So obviously, we did have 8:30 open. As you can see, we traded down, and then we started to form this range. This has happened multiple times in the past week and a half-ish. We tend to get a little bit of a rangy action right after open. So recognizing that, I automatically want to wait until we get a clear move out of that. And at this current time, this was actually the first setup I did take this morning. This was unfortunately a loser. Looking back at it now, it was semi-avoidable, but I still had conviction that this was going to go down lower. This is actually an A+, and I think this was the first A+ setup I have taken that's actually failed. Or has not been at least a TP break even. But this was a 30-second setup. So kind of my thought process here was we had this M1 for value gap that we were displacing off, this yellow box right here. So we broke the swing point right here. Obviously, we do have this one right there, but those are kind of smooth lows. Not a big fan of it, but we did break that one pretty clean with some strong displacement. We had that fair value gap there, and we would have been tagged in right there. As you can see, this one did run up and stop us out. Something I even had this drawn in real time, and it's kind of part of it. Obviously, we're human. We're going to make some errors. But like I said, this was definitely pretty avoidable. So the reason I had conviction this was going to go lower, right, is at the time, ES, we did have some major SMT. ES was ripping. They were pretty uncorrelated in the AM. And that's something like that is a certain rule of mine is when I see uncorrelated indices, I usually try and stay on the sidelines. But I did really like this at the time. I think ES did take one of these morning highs while NQ was way down here. But like I was saying, was on the 1 minute I drew these for projections off. We had this manipulation leg that we traded down. We had our CISD right there, so I projected these down. We had this -2, -2.5 right here. And that's actually, like I said, kind of a mental error. Not really a mental error, but it's part of the game. Again, we're human. So I actually took that trade when we were in the -2, -2.5. As well as being in a 5-minute bullish fair value gap. At that time, we were about to inverse it. We had yet quite to. You can see that we did close the body down here on the 30-second, but on the 5-minute, we ended up just wicking it really. We went through it and then just wicked and closed the nasty wick out of that 5-minute fair value gap because directly correlated because of this bullish move right up here. But that was the first trade that I had taken in the AM, and then there was a 15-second right after. Let me go back over. This is my 15-second chart on the right side. This 15-second chart is pretty beautiful, right? This is one of those ones where it happens so quick, where it's kind of hard to like alert it or anything, because I actually did take this. But even on live stream, it was kind of hard to call in real time because I was trying to focus and make sure that M1 did get closed above. And it actually did. That M1 got inversed. We had our CISD right there. And this one, we broke structure right there. Would have been tagged in on that second candle, or the first candle actually. And this one did rip up to 18 points. And then there was also a 30-second incongruence with that. If you did miss that, let me move this up right here. It would have been right here. Obviously, no equal lows or anything. Actually, no, this 30-second technically would be, and actually, no, it would still count because we have that inverse supporting price. So these can be deemed as breakaway. So this specific 30-second, obviously, we would have broken market structure right there. Strong body close above it, and you would have been tagged in on that first candle after the fair value gap was formed. That would have been a full 18 points. And then really after that, there wasn't really anything that piqued my interest. There was a 15 right over here. This was at 9:15. Let me scroll over. So this is why I keep liquidity points in mind, right? As you can see right here, we have this very ominous low. We do have this low down here too, right? At this time, I think I can't remember when I got off, but I know that this is a really good example of keeping liquidity points in mind, especially when we wick them. There's a good example of PM I'll show you. that kind of correlates to this. But as you can see, we just wicked that, no body close underneath that. And when I see that, that's automatically telling me, hey, this is likely going to be a liquidity sweep right here, and we're likely going to continue to reverse maybe back up into the range before you want to continue down lower or possibly reverse from there, right? So this specific example could have been easily avoidable if you did take this. Obviously, we broke that low right there. You would have been tagging on the 15 second on the first candle, and you would have been stopped out. But that is a really, really good example of keeping liquidity points in mind. And then moving on, obviously, we did have, this is another good example to study. We have no equal highs or anything. We have this M1 fair value gap that's continuing to be held right over here, this yellow box. We displace below this low, get that scalp setup formed, no equal highs, right? But when we're in that M1 fair value gap, like I say, never short in a bullish inefficiency, even though I did that in AM. Like I said, that's a mental error, but it's part of it. But if you did take this, that's the thought process behind it. We are still in a M1 right there. Didn't inverse it or anything, and you would have been a loser if you did take that. But again, easily avoidable. And then obviously 10:30 is usually where you call it for the AM session. And then getting into PM, this is a really, really good example. I was surprised I even got filled on this. No, actually, no. I was going to use this as a, no. Yeah, this one. So this is kind of what I mean, right? So we have a session liquidity point right down here at 17,614.75. I believe this was Asia. No, this wasn't Asia low. I know we had a session liquidity point right down here, but this is a good example of what I was saying using liquidity points. Like you can deem this is obviously a relatively external low for the current range. But when I see this kind of displacement through it, this signifies to me that this is going to likely continue down lower because we did not wick this at all. We followed through with strong displacement, right? This specific setup on the 15 second, it was to the tick right here. We repriced off this fair value gap, right? No equal highs or anything, displaced below that low right there, as well as that farther low over there with strong speed. This one did tap you into the tick. Like I said, surprised you even got a fill on that, and that was a 12-point winner. And then kind of sat on my hands for a little bit. Nothing over here I really, really liked. I don't even think there was any technically valid setups. There was, that would have been second candle. This isn't bad. This one right here. This is a relatively good example too. Displace below that low. I believe we inversed to 1 minute there. Right there, second candle would have tapped you in. When it had been a TP break even, that would have actually ran 18 points. Yep, right down there. And then this other one over here was the second one I did take. This was a 30 second. This was the last scalp I took in PM, another like no tick drawdown. So we have this fair value gap formed. We break that low. We are coming off of a 1 minute fair value gap. We had taken sell side already, but we continued to displace it. No wicking. We did range around a little bit here, but ultimately we respected that M1 and displaced out of it. So that's telling me markets likely want to go lower. And on the 5 minute, I actually had these negative or these standard deviation projections, and we had this -2, -2.5 zone residing right below, which is usually going to act as a magnet for price. And as you can see, it did just that right here. We broke that low fair value gap right there, paired with volume imbalance. This one was, I think it went like half a tick or maybe a tick into your entry, and then just melted down 12. It did run 21.5 points right there, but I closed at 12 right there. But that's kind of it for the AM session right now. We still are, it's 2:31 CST, so market's still open. But those were the setups I did want to cover today. Like I said, that morning one, it's part of the game. It's definitely been journaled and mental error, but like I said, part of it. Ultimately, you got to take those as lessons, because I mean, you're never going to be perfect in this game. Like I always say, you're human, you're not a robot. You're going to make mistakes. It's ultimately how you use those mistakes, learn from them and grow from them. But other than that, it was a relatively clean day. Wasn't too shabby. AM was a little bit goofy. This is probably the best move that we had an AM session in my opinion. And then we had a beautiful market maker sell model coming into New York lunch. But other than that, that seems to be everything I wanted to cover today. I will get this uploaded to YouTube ASAP. Like I said, I do have a night class tonight, so I won't be able to do a live review tonight. So hopefully this answered the questions for any setups y'all had today. But other than that, it seems to be all, and I will catch you on the next video. Peace.